All right, folks, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you're joining us from in the world today. I want to welcome you to today's OPSMVS webcast. Before I hand you David to our speaker today, David Mills, for the session itself, just a couple of things I need to cover in terms of mechanics. First, if you have questions along the way, and we always hope that you do, please put them in the questions box right under the GoToWebinar control panel. We'll get through as many of those as we can during our time together today. If for some reason we don't get through everything, if something requires some research, or if we run out of time, I'll make sure that I capture your information and your question and share it with David. Secondly, we are recording the session today. That's why your lines are all muted. Replay will be available probably later today sometime out in the OPSMVS community. And the last thing from me is we want to make sure these sessions are valuable. You know, you're giving up your time and we're giving up our time as well. So we want to make sure that there's value being derived here. So with that in mind, I have a short survey that's going to pop up at the end of the webcast. If you could stick around for an extra 90 seconds or so and give us some feedback, David and I would really appreciate it. That's it for me. So take it away, sir.
Yes, thank you, Lynn. As Lynn mentioned, my name is David Mills, and I am a technical consultant within the Mainframe Services Division. We are going to be discussing today migrating your mainframe automation to OPSMVS event management and automation with confidence. So if you're running something other than OPSMVS today, we want to help you to migrate over to what we believe is the best product on the market, and that is OPSMVS. And so with that said, let's move into the first slide, which is going to be the disclaimer. This is the one that we have to share, stating that this presentation is for informational purposes only. So just keep that in mind. We're going to go ahead and move right along. And the first thing that you may be asking yourself is, why should I be considering OPSMVS automation intelligence? And you notice that now I'm, instead of OPSMVS event management and automation, I am calling it OPSMVS automation intelligence. And you know, we use several different names for it. Latest name, OPSMVS automation intelligence suite. And for the purposes of the presentation, I will simply be referring to it as OPSMVS. So as you know, mainframes are critical to your company's success. You wouldn't be here otherwise. We've also heard people trying to get off of the mainframe for years and years. Hasn't happened. And so that's where we're at. We still are having mainframes. They still have tremendous value. And the value of mainframe automation to your mainframe itself is tremendous as well. So you've got to have mainframe automation in place. And we realize that you probably had it in place for years and years. There's a lot of historical reasons behind a lot of your automation that's out there. And so we recognize that. And we want to help you to migrate over to our tool smoothly, because that's one of the big fears is with people is, I've got all of this automation that's been built over the years. I don't even know what's out there anymore. And so we can help you. We can help you to do this smoothly. A little bit more about OPSMVS itself. It is Broadcom's premier automation or mainframe automation product. And the reason we say that is because there are two other Broadcom automation products out there, Solve Operations and Opera. And those two products are going away, end of life, as of next year. If you're running those products, you need to consider going ahead and start the path toward migrating, because as of mid-year next year, they will be end of life. OPSMVS is a recognized leader in mainframe automation. It is what I consider to be the best product out there. And some of the things that it helps you do, obviously, optimize your system availability. That's one of the things you want to have, is your mainframe available out there with your applications at all times. It will help you to reduce costs by automating your routine tasks, helping your operations people out there to simplify their job and make it to where that they don't have to remember to do things. We all know that. And it's going to reduce your complexity. It will help you to simplify your resource management. A resource can be any one of several different things. It can be a started task. It can be even a job. It can be a logical resource that you make up, maybe spool monitoring. And you can centrally manage those resources from one location and without having to bounce all over the place. You will be able to increase your visibility and efficiency. We're able to help you to surface data within context and to reduce your MTTR, your mean time to resolution on problems. The one thing that I really, really want you to come away from this presentation with is that Broadcom is here to provide you with some proven tools that we've already built, processes, and we also have the people that can successfully migrate your current mainframe automation solution over to OPSMVS. We've already done it. And if you're wondering, is my mainframe automation product one of those? The answer is more than likely yes. If you have questions about a specific product, you can ask me later on and we'll start a discussion on that. But more than likely, we already have something in place to help you to migrate. With that said, we'll go on and let's talk a little bit more about why you should consider OPSMVS. Some key differentiators is one of the things you get is a modern user experience. You not only have the traditional green screen for interacting, and a lot of people prefer that. I'm the old green screen guy, but we do have a web interface, and it allows you to display, analyze your rules across your entire mainframe environment. It allows you to control your resources, look at your ops log. There's just a lot of stuff that you can do from this web interface. So it makes it to where that it's easier for newer people that are coming onto your staff. We have policy-based resource management. And here we're talking about where those system resources can be managed based on a lot of out-of-the-box rules that we built, using industry best practices, or using your own business-specific requirements. So you can kind of go outside the box if you needed to. But these policies, defining them and maintaining them can all be done through panels that we built. Synchronous multiple address spaces. This is where you can use multiple address spaces to process events in parallel in the address spaces where they occur. It helps with the efficiency of the product. Then we have one of my favorite things, Rex functions that are out there, because your rules are written in Rex and your code is written in Rex that it can call. And those Rex functions, that Rex code can be extended using a very vast amount of functions that we provide, special functionality, and it enables you to detect address spaces and device availability, collect information on various things like JES2, Sysplex, system resources, and to integrate it with other Broadcom products. Now, this is more efficient using these OpsRex functions because they actually query control block and do scans there rather than issue a command and interrogate the responses. So it's much more efficient. I love the OpsRex functions that are out there. We also have comprehensive Sysplex support, and this allows you to maintain your high availability by managing events from your Sysplex facilities and also your Sysplex specific resources. Hardware services. This is where you can interface with your hardware management console and to automate that. We have a lot of flexible integrations, and this would be where we integrate with other products. And there are, I mean, a lot of integration points that we have within the product, including if you're running SysView, we have it into the various workload management components and stuff. So we also have what's called inbound RESTful web services that allows you to trigger automation, event management, and queries from outside of ZOS. And then going along with that, we have an open architecture, which when we're talking about this, Zoe, you may have heard of Zoe, and we have command line interface enabled automation here where we can actually access mainframe data from your desktop, and specifically OPSMVS data. We have dynamic mainframe topology. This allows you to automatically discover your entire mainframe hierarchy and then quickly see how those components are interconnected and how they may impact your business. And finally, centralized alert management. The alert management product is really nice. We're going to talk a little bit about it, but it's called Alert Central, and it allows you to consolidate your alerts from across your mainframe environment and gain meaningful insights, and it's going to allow you to speed up your problem analysis and resolution. Web-based, point-click, really nice. So those are the key differentiators. Next, this is a picture of what you're going to get, because you don't just get OPSMVS as part of that automation suite. You're going to have access to some other components free of charge, no extra cost. I guess I shouldn't say free because you're going to be paying for OPSMVS. But anyway, you're going to get this as a total package, and it would include that mainframe topology that I talked about, where it goes out and shows you in a graphical way how all of your mainframe components can fit together. You're going to get Alert Central, which is what I just mentioned before, that's where you see all of your alerts that come across. We have Console Manager, which allows you to view consoles, and then Automation Point, where you can actually get out here and it's an outboard engine, if you want to think of it that way. It runs on a PC, x86 based, and you can define sessions and have extra automation that is off from the mainframe. You've got a notification manager component, which will let you automatically notify key team members about critical events that may require them to do something very quickly. So that notification manager is very nice. All right, we've talked about why you would want to use OPSMVS. Now let's talk more about how to get there. So we'll focus more now on a migration. And the first thing I'd like to talk about is the people aspect. And that is where we're talking about the technical expertise that is available on our tech consultant team. And actually there's teams, because we have teams over different regions, North America, Europe, so forth, and Asia Pacific. And this is going to include people that have strong knowledge and skills in different areas, which include your current automation tool. A lot of these people have been around for a long time and have worked on various automation tools, so they're familiar with other products. And then, of course, we do have a deep understanding of OPSMVS itself, since that's where our focus is. We're familiar with various programming language. We have an emphasis on our OpsRex, of course, since that's right in line with OPSMVS. But, you know, we've got people that know assembler, know COBOL. So all of that knowledge. And then the various subsystems, CICS, DB2, IMS, MQ, ZOS, JES2. Then we get into network connectivity. We have a deep understanding of TCP/IP, of VTAM, of the different security packages that are out there. And so we understand how security can impact OPSMVS, your mainframe automation. We understand all of the interfaces that OPSMVS has and how to best interface those products together. We will be sharing best practices with you, what we've learned over the past, and that knowledge is very valuable. And then most of our teams have at least at one point in their career worked as in the operations environment itself, in your problem resolution, in the getting out there and actually performing an IPL. So we understand the challenges that your operations team may face. And here's another important part. Broadcom is ready to partner with you for a successful and smooth migration. Okay. Now your next question may be, how do I get started? Well, the best way is to engage your Broadcom account representative, and that will allow them to get started. They can get the ball rolling. If you're not sure who that is, you can reach out to me. I think, and I'll have to check with Lynn, but I think that my contact information will be shared out. So anyway, we will make sure that you get that information. And then once they get involved, they can set up conversations between you and our technical teams, and we will guide you along to help provide data on your current automation solution. We'll give you JCL to run. We'll provide instructions, and usually this is like one job that you need to run, or maybe 2 jobs, and then you get the data zipped up and sent to us. And you can do that through a case or through our client assessment project site. We then take that data, we run it through our analysis tool. And this analysis tool is very, very thorough. It generates detailed analysis reports on your different automation components. It shows us how a rule may be triggered. It shows us how code may be triggered, and it will also go in and identify rules or rules or execs that may be no longer in use. And it does that by chasing the calling chain so that we can look at that. Now, that doesn't mean that it couldn't be called manually, but we present that report to you, and we will talk to you about that report when we're going through the actual migration. We would be doing an inventory reduction as one of the first steps. Not only do we give you reports, we're going to generate a lot of those OPSMVS rules and recs automatically through the tool. And as part of that, we include the ability to perform a simulate. A simulate is where you can go in, you can bring OPSMVS up, you can install these rules, put them into simulate mode, which is simply a flag, and then you can see what OPSMVS would do while you're still running your old product. And you can go into the ops log and compare what OPSMVS says it would do versus what actually happened with your current mainframe automation product. And that gives you that warm, fuzzy feeling and make sure that you're comfortable before we actually flip it over and do the implementation. Now we run that data through, and then we're going to sit down with you and we're going to go through an observations and findings meeting. This is where we show you what we found, and we give you an overview of that. And then from there, you get to decide on what your next steps would be. And some of the options may include a deeper dive presentation on OPSMVS, where we can take a couple hours and talk about diving deep into those key differentiators that we talked about and how to use the product. We can also go into a demonstration where we show how the product works live on our system, one of our test systems. And then you can request a proposal based on that analysis, which shows the hours and the resources that may be involved. And you can, of course, combine those. You can ask for all 3. And we would, of course, accommodate that. And then, of course, you may have other questions. So we can answer those questions as part of the next step. As far as the migration itself, we use what we call a 2-phased methodology, and it begins with an initial scoping of your effort based on that analyzed data, some online questionnaires that we guide you through, and interviews, mainly that observations and findings, but there may be some other interviews that we perform. So phase 1 of that is a 5-week time-boxed event where we sit down. We are going to conduct workshops with you, in other words, some meetings, We're going to gather further requirements, answer questions, look at your current automation state and your architecture. And of course, we'll have to dive outside of automation itself. We'll have questions about, okay, how does your applications teams interface and so forth. We'll help you stand up the product, and we will assist you with the installation and configuration. We can do a pilot migration where we prove out the solution, and that would be where we run this on a test system and implement a certain amount of test rules and test code, and then we would do some tune-up of utilities and that sort of thing. We would also, during this time, develop a detailed plan that's going to show you how we're going to do phase 2, which is the actual work. So phase 2 is where you get into the grunt work, and that's as long as it needs to be. It can be weeks, it can be months. Most people, their automation is very complex because it's been built over years, and so this is not something to be taken lightly. As far as us, we understand, as we went back before and we talked about how critical mainframe automation is to you, and we want to make sure that it goes smoothly. We'll complete that conversion during that time, and it's going to include, as I've mentioned before, an inventory reduction, migrating the code, and bench testing code, both that's automatically generated and manually generated. We'll provide you with knowledge transfer, and that could include web-based training, instructor-led training, as well as documenting processes that we may have come up with for special solutions and during the time that you're going to be doing the migration. As far as supporting your go live, we have expert change planning, and I'm going to come back and talk about that in just a moment. We have our technical consulting team, which I'm a part of, that will be there with you either on site or remotely during that implementation window. You will also be designated as a hotspot, which means that there's more people standing by in case we run into problems. Let's go back and talk about expert change planning real quick. I want to point out that this is white glove support using some of our senior level support engineers, and they'll be working with customers on pre-planning for upgrading hardware, software, operating systems, security patches, backup installations, and this is free of charge for our Broadcom customers, whether the event involves our software or not. As long as you're a Broadcom customer and you've got some kind of major change coming up, we can help you with that planning. So this is not just for this migration that I'm talking about. If you've got any of those things that I mentioned before, a hardware upgrade or software upgrade, we can help out with that planning. So I wanted to put that plug in there for expert change planning program. Some other things, added value that we provide. We've already mentioned training. We have a lot of web-based training that's available for OPSMVS. And we've got some instructor-led training. We've been improving that training over time and getting more and more modules out there, more and more digital badges, and we'll talk a little bit more on the next slide. We do knowledge transfer, as I've mentioned. We want to make sure that you're aware of our tech docs, because the tech docs for OPSMVS is very good, gives a lot of good information, especially regarding those Rex functions that I mentioned before. So one of the things I did early in my career with OPSMVS was sit down and I looked at all of those different Rex functions and what they could do for me. Didn't mean that I memorized them, but I at least was aware of them. And there's a lot of examples that the tech docs provides. That's very valuable. We also have industry-leading support. So Broadcom's OPSMVS support team has been voted as one of the best within the company over the last several years. So you're going to get some of the best support that you could hope for. You'll get access to user communities, and user communities is where you can go and communicate with other clients. You can ask questions out there. You can put in ideas, and as ideas are put in, other clients can vote thumbs up on it, and that helps to determine how quickly something gets put into our backlog for implementation. So this user community is great. You're the one that is guiding the product. So join the user community. You'll also obviously get OPSMVS itself. You'll be able to download it. You'll get the most recent PTFs. And then finally, one of the added values that we have within our company is the Mainframe Technical Exchange. We'll talk about that in a couple of slides. Here's the slide that I mentioned about the web-based training. I'm not going to go through all of these courses, but this is just a few of them that's available, and there's more coming. The very top of the course name list there, you will see that it's mentioning a YouTube playlist, and this is some YouTube videos that are out there that tell you a little bit about how to do something within OPSMVS, maybe how to use the ops log effectively, or how to do how to control AOF rules and that sort of thing. So that YouTube playlist is really nice for the little 5 to 10 minute videos. We have more instructor-led training. Some of them include using System State Manager. We've got some courses coming up for OPSMVS for operators and administrators. And there's digital badges, as I've mentioned, that are being developed. There's already some out there. So I highly encourage you to take advantage of this training. Down below, there's a graph that's showing you the before and after, how valuable the training is. And you can see that it does have a great value with the before and the after. So I need to mention the Broadcom Mainframe Technical Exchange. This is a conference that, well, they used to be in person and then COVID happened, but the in-person events are back, and we've got one coming up in Plano, Texas, June 13th through the 15th. This is North America. There's also a global virtual event, October the 3rd through the 5th. There's other events that are in different regions, so I highly recommend going out there and finding the other events. The reasons that you may make plans to attend. Well, networking with peers, that's one of the big values. You get to talk to other clients, find out where their challenges are coming up. You get to talk with mainframe technical experts. There's technical education available during this conference, product updates. We have how-to and roundtable sessions. Here's the best thing. It's free. There's no registration fee. It's open to all Broadcom customers. If you want to learn more, you can look at this particular link here, and it'll give you more information about it. And with that, I am done with the webcast. I can take questions now, Lynn.
Thanks, David. Great job as always. Folks, if you have any questions for David, please put it right there in the questions box. So far, we don't have any questions. I will mention that if you want David to get in touch with you directly, in the post-event survey, there is a spot where you can request that. But we'll give everyone a few seconds to see if they want to ask any questions.
While we're waiting on questions,
go ahead.
While we're waiting on questions, one of the things that you might want to do is to go out and reach out to your Broadcom account representative, and we'll be happy to start some discussions. You're not obligated to anything. It's just a discussion.
All right, I don't see any questions coming in, so I guess we can go ahead and wrap up, folks. A quick reminder that we do have that post-event survey that's going to pop up when I close it, and also look out in the OPSMVS community later today or early tomorrow for the replay. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, Lynn.